the Gorgeous Geeks, and we're here today to talk about Smallville Season 1. And you guys voted on some of your favorites and your least favorite of the season, and we're gonna have I'll pick ourselves. So I'm gonna talk about a couple before we announce
who won.
Yeah.
On our poll.
So let's go with the best ones first. You had. Well, first of all, Smallville opened up as fresh. It was new.
Yeah.
This new take on Superman. It was just really cool. Tom Welling was so cute.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And, it was like the new thing. Like, some people grew up with Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman, which, I remember when that was on. But it was something new. And they could do more stuff than they could with that show, as far as effects and when it came out. I mean, you look back on season 1, you're like, oh, that doesn't look as good as I thought it did. But at the time,
you're like, oh, wow.
Wow.
I remember being amazed every single time, every episode that Smallville came on, because they did something, and I was just waiting for that special effect to kick in.
Yeah, my dad was like, I watched Smallville for fight scenes and special effects and stuff. I'm like, we're watching for fight scenes, and I don't know what you're waiting on. But they were doing something cool, like every week you were like waiting for him to run really fast or run through the rain and watch him, those raindrops or something as he's moving. Like, it was really, really cool and really awesome. So, but they're developing these characters, and it was really cool to watch Lex and Clark be friends, and Jonathan's like, shying them away, trying to keep them apart because he has these dealings with Lionel.
Yeah.
And watching Lex, he just wants to be loved so badly.
He did.
So badly.
He did, and even though you knew what he was going to end up doing, you're kind of like, give him a chance, Jonathan, and quit being so mean.
Yeah. Hourglass, we had that episode, if you recall, with that with the blind woman who could touch you and see your future. I wonder if Lana's going to lose her powers and if they're going to be consistent with that, because she died around she was old and had loved ones or whatever around her. That's how Lana is supposed to die. The great part about that episode was that she was like reluctant to read Lex for some reason, but at the end he came to her and she touched him and she saw the future when he was president and he went in the cornfield and he had that black glove that he had on the finale, actually.
It was a field of flowers.
It was a sunflower field. Yeah. And so I'm glad they had that black glove thing, because I had forgotten about it, actually. But he had that white suit on when they said elect President-elect Lex, and he had that glove too. So it's just like prophecy coming to pass. And he waves his hand, and the sunflowers die, and everything's dead. There's this field of corpses, and then it starts raining blood. And he's like, what did you see? And she's dead.
Yeah. And
he lets her go, and he's kind of like freaked out. Because he's like, what the heck just happened? What did she see? So it was a really great episode.
Yes.
The only thing that was like, was the fact that the villain of the episode was that old man who Lana lost. She's like, have you ever known anyone who's lost an whole old person? Like, no, Lana, I haven't. No. I mean, he like fell in the water and
became young.
Yeah, became young.
Sought revenge.
Well, I mean, the revenge plot was all fine and dandy. Sometimes they try to give a scientific explanation with the meteor rocks, but it just sounds like it's mostly magic but it's not supposed to be magic. But some of the stuff is like so ridiculous. It's like, I can't be down with that.
Yeah. Like
shapeshifter kryptonite girl, who's also in the first season, but hadn't reached her full height potential of stalkerness.
Not yet.
Not yet. But that was a really great episode.
Let's just get to the one that the people voted for.
The one that people voted for.
It was the best episode of season 1.
Is the pilot.
Yep.
I mean, we already talked about the pilot.
Did a review on it.
But it was a really great episode, and it made you hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
It made you feel good. And you're like, wow, I can't wait to see how this keeps going. And it started great, ended great, and you just were so optimistic for what lied ahead. But our favorite episode is Tempest. Because literally it's one of the greatest season finales ever.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, because like at first you got, the biggest thing at the end, the last thing you saw was, Lana in that truck and she's hitting the window.
Multiple tornadoes, by the way, because we're like, oh dang, it's not just one.
I know. It's Twister up in this piece. It was crazy. And then he's like, Lana, and he runs in there. And everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to fly. You know, that's what I was thinking.
I remember watching it, and our dad hadn't watched it when it came on, and he was like, we were like watching it like again for the second time. We were excited to see him, and he's like fast forwarding it until like the good stuff. I'm like, how could you do that? What about their lives and these characters? Because, you know, back then you're like Team Klana, but then you're like, well, you know what, Chloe, she likes Clark and she's right there.
Yeah, that felt
Give her a chance.
I felt so bad for
Yeah, and
Chloe
they went to the dance together, and he's like, oh, Lana might be in danger.
I felt so bad for Chloe. See, we didn't always dislike
yeah,
Chloe. But I really like Chloe in the beginning. And I felt bad for Pete because he also, you know, he showed interest in Chloe too.
And Whitney left off to join the military.
But that's not all what happened in that season finale, because the beam fell on Lionel.
Yep.
And you didn't know if Lex was going to let his father die.
Yep.
Because, like I said, the show is very new. And so we didn't know, and we knew that Lex went on, was eventually
and John Glover was just a guest star at the time.
Yeah. So I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm like, okay, well, is this Lex showing his true colors? He's going to let his father
die. And he had that blood on his face, too, and he's looking like, what am I going to do, y'all?
I don't know. You're my dad, but you're a douche.
Yeah.
So.
And Lionel was, you know, starting to push him out and just everything. It was like...
Oh, and the ship came to life. Jonathan was fighting somebody or whatever, and then Martha looked over, and the ship started to hover, and it came alive. At first, I was thinking, is his baby clothes going to be in there? You know, my mind was just whirling at the end of that. So, Tempest was my favorite, but I can see why everybody voted for the pilot. Okay, now the worst episode.
Yeah, you know,
I can't pick a worst. Like, I was talking to Christina, I was looking over them, and I was just like, I cannot pick a worse.
Well, the highest one was Craving, right? Like a landslide. And other people have had votes, and people always vote Craving. And I'm like, was it really that bad? And I guess people can't get behind the concept of some girl sucking out your fat.
I think when the episode aired, my brother was like...
He's like, baby, you can take it all.
Yeah, he's like, you can take it all.
Pay me a visit, girl. I'll donate. I will donate to you.
Kryptonite lipo.
But I don't know. But that's another one of those things. Like,
I don't know. I mean,
makes
people,
sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I could totally see. I know people had a lot of problem with that. Like, she ate a deer and her jaw went crazy, and she's sucking fat, and how did she get that from vegetables? But you know, the thing about the episode is that I could totally see someone experimenting with meteor rock, putting it in food and trying to make something.
The soil had like kryptonite in it or whatever. That was,
yeah, that's what it was. It was in the soil, and she grew the vegetables.
But
I can see.
I mean, people do crazy things. On the news the other day, that was the woman who was giving Botox injections to her little girl.
Yeah, I mean, but I could totally see people put the kryptonite. I'm sorry, not in the shakes, but in the soil, like as a mineral to try and grow crops. Or maybe they didn't even know that they were in the crops, whatever.
I was watching it today, and at the one point she realized what she had become, and she was about to kill herself. She made a greenhouse explode and stuff, and I'm just like, why does this do this to people? Just make them go nuts, so crazy.
Yeah.
But that's our Lois Lane now.
And Amy Adams. Who would ever thought that girl in that episode that people didn't like would end up being in more movies than anybody on the cast of Smallville. Yeah. And then would eventually even be playing Lois Lane.
Some other episodes, Jitters, I remember watching it. And I'm like, when he just starts shaking and stuff. I remember watching that when I was, how old was I? Like 11?
11.
And I'm like, this is dumb. I'm like embarrassed to watch this right now. Like, cause just shaking, I'm like, this looks terrible. At the time. But then there were other things like this.
But you know about the episode? It had Tony Todd in it. And that man to this day freaks me out. But
you know, the episode kind of redeemed in some areas because there's a whole third level mystery, and at the end when Clark had his family and they're hugging and they're all hugging all happy, and Lex and Lionel have this hug moment in front of the press, and Lionel's just kind of like, and Lex is looking over like Clark at I envy you so much.
I want a loving hug at one point in my life.
It's just like, oh, Lex.
Yeah.
No wonder you go evil.
Yeah.
But one of the worst ones, which I'm gonna just go ahead and deem worst for me, is like, because you haven't reached a decision. So this will be our decision.
I really
I'll make up your mind for you.
Cool. Make up my mind for me. It's my mind.
Episode cool because Guy, first of all, he goes out into the lake and it's frozen. He's like, I'm gonna catch this football, and then he ends up falling in the lake and like freezing. And I'm just like, was that football worth it? Was that football worth it?
It was the catch of the century.
Because there happened to be meteor rocks, and that made him like in constant hypothermia, and so he had to still heat to survive. It was just odd. And if you watch his face while he's sucking heat out of people, he's just like, like, I'm like, this is just odd. And even when he was grabbing Clark, he's like, like, I did not like their expressions and just anything. I didn't like the explanation. I didn't like the powers.
A lot of the explanations for the meteor things were just weird, period, and they didn't make any sense, and it wasn't consistent. I mean, it's like, okay, at first it's like, okay, well, the kryptonite's with you and it's with something else, then you actually become part of that thing. Like, you have those powers, but then yet, you know, but in other times, if it just seems like, how are you feeling today? Because however you feel, that's going to change the kryptonite and give you that type of power for whatever the goals and ambitions of life that you want. So the explanations, you know, were always inconsistent and kind of weird in itself. So it's kind of hard to say, well, I don't like this episode because of that or that. But overall, I just really like season 1. But I can't pick a worse. I can't pick a worse. I see why people say Craving. I really do. But I just like the episode because I was just like, oh man, that'd be so cool if somebody could get that right.
I'm not gonna say I really liked the episode or anything like that. I can see why people picked it. It is odd and weird.
I think everybody was like talking about that episode the next day, and had that picture of Amy Adams like over the deer, and people kept talking about that. I remember having that episode air, and they're just like, "Are you serious?" and stuff.
Like now it's ridiculous. But I wonder at the time, was it just freaky and creepy and odd, you know? Or now people are like, oh, that was stupid. The Freak of the Week thing. Going back and looking back at it, it's, you know, you can nitpick all you want. But at the time, which I guess I was like 11 at the time, it's like, this is amazing. Yeah. Except for that jitter seizure thing. That was too weird. But that's best and worst for season 1. So you can go to thegorgeousgeeks.com and do the same thing for season 2. So, and we will be back here next week to talk about it. Yes, so
I'm Katrina.
I'm Christina, and we're the Gorgeous Geeks.
Hi, I'm Katrina from the Gorgeous Geeks, and I'm here to tell you that we have some swag for you to buy. Like good, great stuff, like this coffee mug.
And what does this say, Katrina?
It says yesterday's science fiction is today's science facts. Ooh. Tastes like geeky. You can go out and buy cool t-shirts, like this nice cool white tank top that says Gorgeous Geek on it. You know you want it. And you can dress it up like this, or this, or this, or even like this. I'm getting chilly. Geekiness. Or this. No, you can't see it, but it's still there. So go to thegorgeousgeeks.com and buy some swag. Go to thegorgeousgeeks.com to get other t-shirts, keychains, and other cool geeky swag that will keep you looking fly and still representing your geeky pride.